Hello YouTube and welcome to episode 4 of season 7 of Tomorrow's Talk Today. I'm your host, Lucas Freitas, and today I'm going to be joined by panelists Nicole Ardavino, Joshua Ware, and special guest Harper Melton, who will be joining us later on today's episode. Today's episode will be discussing mental health in college students. In today's world, 1 in 3 college students use mental health resources on campus, compared to 40 years ago when only 1 in 10 college students use them. So to begin our discussion, let's take a quick look at a clip from YouTube titled Adjusting to College, Mental Health.
Educational.
Sometimes it can be really hard to tell if someone's depressed or anxious because they're what we call internalizing disorders. So people don't necessarily express their feelings. I mean, if someone's crying all the time, then it's easier. But that often isn't the case. They might just feel sad, but try not to show it because it's embarrassing or what have you.
We all know that coming to college can be a huge change of life for most of us, and adjusting to that new life can harm someone's mental health. We're going to start with Joshua. Josh, what's some advice you would give new students coming into college?
I would say to find your group fast, whether that's through a certain hobby you have or finding a certain club on campus or through expressing yourself through music, makeup, clothing, anything. As soon as you find your group, college and your mental health life will be much easier because you have people to lean on and support you. Having a good support group is probably the most important thing to have for your mental health in college.
No, I agree, and that was something that took me a long while, and it didn't really happen until I think after fall break, where I had found two of my roommates, Rob and Gavin, who really helped me, because adjusting to that life was really difficult, especially coming from like that routine of being from just going to school every day,
right,
and going home to your parents where you kind of were away from it, versus then having to adjust to live at school every day. And it wasn't something you could escape.
Right.
And so I think I agree, finding that support system was really helpful. Like, Nicole, could you kind of talk about what it was like for your adjustment?
Absolutely. I think the hardest part for me was the figuring out how to manage my time. You're in high school and you have this routine every day where you go to school, you go home, and you kind of just do what your parents say. You just kind of do what other people are telling you to do. And then you come to college and all of a sudden you have all of this freedom. You have all this time to, you decide what you do with that time. And for me, it took me a really long time to figure out what to do with that, because I would have all this free time and I would just waste it, and then I'd start my homework at like midnight and then I'd be up really late. So time management was definitely the biggest adjustment for me, and it took me a long time to figure out how to deal with that.
Yeah, I think even today that's still something I kind of struggle with a little, is time management, but also just the responsibility aspect of it. You know, I think when coming into college, in my personal opinion, I think K through public systems, kind of in the K through 12 system, they try their best, but they don't really teach you the responsibility of just being on your own. You know, and that's something that I think in college is a really hard adjustment for a lot of people. Not everyone, some people kind of are just able to do it, but I think that's kind of a big learning curve, is to manage your time and to, one, seek out those resources to help you when coming in, and also to seek out, like, I'm responsible for my actions, no one else is. If I mess up, it's on me. And so, and it's also taking accountability for that. But I also think there are those out there who just aren't meant for college, you know, and that's totally okay. College, they try it and they leave. And I think there's a big discussion, not a large enough discussion, I should say, of, and a kind of a stigma of people who leave college, you know, that like, oh, you're just not, you know, you're not going to succeed because you left college, when in reality, you can't really say that. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on that aspect of like the stigma around dropping out too?
I think depending on a lot of aspects, when you first come in your freshman or maybe even sophomore year, dropping out would be an okay choice to make. Granted, it's probably not what people want for you outside supporting cast members of your life, but definitely finding out early on if college is made for you or not, and whether it affects your mental health, your physical well-being, so on and so forth. Finding out very, very early that you are not made for college isn't the end of the world. There's easily many, many other things that you can do with your life, such as get a career or go home to work and find a new support system. There's plenty of things to do other than go to college.
No, I agree. And so with that, I thank you for that advice, and I'm sure that'll help new students coming into college. So we'll have a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. Do you need BRoll for that next COMM class project? If so, we've got that BRoll. Are you not Ryan Fletcher and you haven't attended every event? We've got that BRoll. Are you not Cole Pello and haven't taken photos of every event? We've got that BRoll. Do you need shots of students eating pizza or getting their Starbucks? What about some building signs? We've got that BRoll. Do you need shots of students pressing buttons? What about doing the other things that look techie? We've got that BRoll. Do you need shots of fall on campus or students making random mugs? We've got that BRoll. Do you need a shot of Taylor Reilly IV being inaugurated as the president of Longwood? No! That's not B-roll. That's too specific. Do you need random B-roll shots with the tripod left in the background? What you don't like about the tripod in the background? I just left it there and it was great. Next time you have a COMM class project, remember, we've got that B-roll for the low, low price of $19.99. You can have access to all our library of B-roll. Call 434-395-2384 today before they sell out.
Rugby is power. From the scrum to lineouts to tackling, it promotes determination and rewards hard work.
Rugby is acceptance of any and every body type.
Rugby is teamwork. It is building a family and supporting them no matter what.
When we step onto the pitch, nothing else matters except for the game that we love.
Rugby is power. Power for women, power for the team, power for Longwood.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that B-roll video, but next we're going to be focusing on mental health and people doing extracurricular activities on campus. So let's give a round for our special guest, Harper, who is also a student athlete. And Harper, I want to discuss what it's like to balance the athletics life, with being in that program, because I know there's a lot of stuff that some students don't know that you have to deal with on a regular basis. So could you just dive into that for us?
Yes. So definitely kind of going from the beginning, the transition from high school to freshman year it's a big jump, because you have practice every day except on Sundays usually, and then you have to get your homework done and you're traveling. And I think travel is the biggest thing to adjust to, especially for me, because I like to get things done ahead of time, which helped teach me to get things done even more ahead of time, because if we're traveling for a couple days and I miss class, I would have to have things turned in before the due date, and it's a little stressful because the bus doesn't always have Wi-Fi, and then that means you have to get a hotspot, and it's a whole bunch of things, and then you have to plan to do things at the hotel. And sometimes when you're coming back from a game at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, you don't really want to be doing homework or even thinking about school, but you have to because you're doing school and lacrosse. But just knowing the good divide of planning ahead is the number one thing that I kind of harped on. So just knowing when you need to do certain assignments and get things turned in, but also the transition definitely from high school to college is a big leap, but your teammates are there to help you out and always there if you have questions. And so I feel definitely having that support really helps you as a student athlete.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you, Harper. We actually have a clip from a TED Talk titled Athletes and Mental Health, so let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
Back and assessed it all, and I thought, why? Why did it take me so long to acknowledge and accept my illness? And I realized the culture that we live in as athletes does not make it easy for us to honor this. If you think about it, the culture of athletics preaches where there's a will, there's a way. The best don't rest. Unless you puke, faint, or die, keep going. Mental illness is associated with weakness. To appear weak is the last thing an athlete wants.
So let's jump to Nicole and Joshua for some more thoughts on this. And so I'm going to talk, we talked about some athletic stuff, but let's talk about extracurricular activities. Nicole, I know you're in rugby, so could you kind of talk about that balance with being in rugby?
Absolutely. Being in a club sport is definitely very different from being in a D1 sport, but it's still a very big commitment. And I joined rugby my freshman year. I went to the very first practice, so I have been on the rugby team since like the very first time that I came to Longwood, and I think that really impacted how I managed my time in college because I immediately jumped into these extracurricular activities, and it was definitely a huge adjustment trying to figure out how to commit all this time to something that I enjoyed, but at the same time you have to worry about homework, you have to worry about a social life, you have to worry about all these other things. Learning how to live on your own, that was a big one. So all of these factors really affect how you adjust to this college life and adjusting to this mental health that is definitely changing a lot for all of us. So it was a big adjustment for me, and I think there's this big expectation that you have to be in these extracurriculars because that's what we were taught in high school, like that's how you get into college. So people jump right into these extracurriculars as soon as they get to college, and sometimes it's overwhelming and you don't know how to handle all of it. But I think for me, it helped me a lot because I had that support system for me, and they were there to help me and figure out how to be a college student and learn from that. So it has its benefits, and sometimes it can affect your time management, which I think, I don't know, it did some good things and some bad things for me.
Yeah, and Josh, I know you're in theater, so like, could you kind of talk about also that and what it's like to be in a theater? Because I know they have really long nights where, you know, practice and rehearsals can really eat up your time. So managing that and what that takes a toll on you mentally as well.
Yes, I try to get my homework done depending on my role in the show. If you're stage crew or run crew, you might not need to be there until the upcoming weeks of the show, which those rehearsals usually are 8 to 12 hours. But if you're an actor, the schedule, your schedule is you rehearse every single night for 3 hours, except Saturday and Sunday, and then the closer you are to the show, the longer the rehearsals tend to be. But the workload plus the keeping up with all your different friends, plus remembering stuff you need for the show is a great toll on anyone's mental health. But it's something we love to do and love to express ourselves with. So the time it takes up really makes up for it.
And shooting back to you, Harper, I mean, with lacrosse, has it been worth it? Has being in that, even with all the time commitment you've had to give, has it been worth going through all of that, your college career?
It's definitely been worth it. Definitely been worth it. I've met all of like my closest friends like on my team, and it's kind of helped me just like going through life. I've always like loved like an organized schedule, and it is an organized schedule because you have like everything's like planned out for the day or for the week or for the month. So I feel like as a person, I really enjoyed having that schedule and like meeting all the new people, and meeting each new grade each year is really fun. So like senior year meeting the freshmen, it's like you remember when you're in their shoes and how kind of scared and like shell shocked you were, and not like you didn't know like how ready you were. Like playing lacrosse from high school to college is a lot different. The academics are different. So just like having each other is a great thing, and I've enjoyed all 4 years.
Yeah, I know recently I've been put in some leadership positions within my organizations that I'm in, and you know it's been tolling. However, I agree with you, Harper, in that it is made me have a family away from family, and it is an experience that I would even with how much time it's sunk in and how much it's taken a toll on me mentally and put a strain on it, I would never give up meeting any of these people ever again with what they've impacted on my life. But no, I agree within that aspect. But I want to thank you for all your comments on this one, and I want to thank you, Harper, especially since you have been directing this episode and now you're also here. So I just want to say that's a really great achievement, and it's the first time it's happened. But thank you. So we'll just be right back to discuss some ways to help deal with mental health after graduation on tomorrow's Talk Today. So stay tuned.
The motto of the department for years has been, we make the world through words.
All the professors are very supportive. I know that I can go with them with any questions about anything.
They're amazing.
and they're genius, and you would be amazed at the things that they've done and the places they've been and the things that they know.
You gain really neat skills that can take you in a whole range of directions, and it really allows you to have a wide array of possibilities when you leave Longwood. Teachers are very creative in how they teach, and we try to teach creative approaches to problem solving. So in our writing classes, often you will do things like build Legos and then have to describe how you did it so that you learn how to write instructions that other people can read. We talk about great ideas, and so classes are just really fun to sit around and talk about the meaning of life and talk about what's super important in the world today.
There is a level of being able to sit down and just listen that is required to be able to do that work well. And with that, listening means being sensitive to people's backgrounds. We make the world through words, through those sensitivities, and coming together as an English community.
You learn how to put your best effort into something to get the best back from it. I started out wanting to write books, and now I'm working with the athletics department, working with ESPN.
I had dropped out for financial reasons, and while I was sitting at home just working, trying to make some money, I got an email from an English professor, Dr. Hetty. It was a deeply personal moment, but it really did feel like the English department cared about me and about the students.
Thanks for sticking with us. To finish off our discussion, let's take a look at a clip titled Overcoming Postgraduate Depression.
And I think educational institutions do a really good job in painting this beautiful picture for their students. You know, we've won half the battle because we're here, right? And attending university and graduating is 100% something to be celebrated, totally. But I think here we're really focused in acing that exam and in graduating in the top of our class, because that in theory is a testament of who we are, right? If that in theory, if we graduate with good grades, then our employer is going to see our efforts, right? And they're going to hire us. But you see, the thing is that there is hundreds other people that want the exact same thing that you do, the exact same job position, the exact same salary.
Nicole, I want to start with your thoughts on post-graduation depression, and what are some good ways to prepare ourselves for when we go out there in the real world?
Yeah, I think that TED Talk stated it very well. There's this huge expectation for college students you go to college for 4 years and you're supposed to find a job immediately after you finish those 4 years. And if you don't, then you're kind of seen as like this failure, which in reality, that is not true. I think that's just how we ourselves convince ourselves that that's how it works. But a lot of times there's a lot of people who don't find a job right after graduation. And I think it's really important to remember that that's normal. It's very normal to not immediately go into whatever field that you want to. And in my case, as comm majors, all of us are, there's so many options to go after graduation to go into. It's so broad of a major. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to find exactly what we're looking for when there are so many options, and sometimes you don't even know where to start. So I would say some advice for people is just to remember that we're all in the same boat. We're all going through the same thing right now, and even if we don't find the perfect job as soon as we graduate, that's not to say that we won't find it in 2 years from now, 1 year from now, or 10 years from now. So I think it's important to remember that we're all going at our own pace, and it's okay if we start somewhere else right after graduation.
No, I agree. I think there is a stigma, and especially in today's world, that we have to have life figured out. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's a lot easier to say that than actually to be in the person's shoes and try to figure it out, you know? And I think you bring up the great point of comm just being such a diverse area of just possible careers. And Josh, your thoughts on just the idea of so many options, can it be overwhelming, but also kind of the excitement that there are so many possibilities to do with our major as well?
Yes, I believe that communications, first of all, does an amazing job of finding your specific, what you want to do during college. But also the amount of jobs you can pick up and learn how to do along the way opens up many new doors after graduation, because you're certified in this or that, or you know how to work certain equipment. You're also good at public speaking. So I'd say the communications department does an incredible job of zeroing in on things you're interested in, but also allowing you to collect as much knowledge as possible.
No, and I agree with that, and I think there's just it's scary. You know, it's scary to have so many options, and sometimes it makes you kind of just not want to go and look for it, because, at least for me, I'm like, am I going to be good at any of these options? You know, like in the TED Talk, there are hundreds of people looking out there at the same one. You know, so am I going to be able to be the one that gets that job? And I think that's where it's scary. And I think wrapping it back to our first discussion with adjusting to college, we have to adjust to leaving college, which, you know, when we're in college, it is a hard transition to adjust from high school to college, but we're still in that same routine of school. But at that point, when we leave college, we make our own schedules now. We don't go off professor schedule. We don't go off class schedules. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow like we do today. We know what's going to happen on Friday. We know what we're doing tomorrow. Tuesday, we don't know. And I think that's where the fear of it comes in, and the fear of failure. But I think, like what Nicole has said and what Josh has said, is that there's endless possibilities, you know. And if you end up not getting your dream job right away, that's okay. It is okay to be at a Target and just work there a night, like from all day for a year, 2 years. As long as you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you'll be okay. And I think that's something that at least I see within our department, is that we have a support system, and that is one thing that I'm grateful for, and I think all of us here are as well, is that once we leave, we have our department promotes networking. It promotes us to keep in contact with one another, to promote like, hey, I know someone who might be skilled in this area just for you. And I think that's great. I mean, do you all have any thoughts on that as well, of just like while there is a fear of graduating, there is also a fear of just connectiveness between us?
I definitely think so. The comm department has done a great job at helping us network with other people and figure out what we want to do with our lives beyond college. So I feel very prepared to go from here, but it's definitely scary, but I think I'm as prepared as I can be. So I'm excited to see where all of us go beyond here.
And Josh, do you have any final closing thoughts before we wrap up today's episode?
I mean, always have a support system, whether that's little things such as your friends, or even not so close friends, or big things such as your family. Always depend on them to have your back.
I agree. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining me for today's discussion, but that's all the time we have for today. If you or someone you know is experiencing some mental health issues and needs someone to talk to, contact the National Health Hotline at 1-866-903-3787. I'd like to thank the panelists for their thoughts, and everyone behind the scenes for making this program possible. Be sure to subscribe to Longwood Comm Studies on YouTube to get notifications when the next episode is streaming. I'm your host, Lucas, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching tomorrow's Talk Today.